And he talked to us from Colorado, where he lived, and we all in the entire school system. You know, Richmond Hill and us too. Every teacher was required to log on, and I did. But you know, I also graded papers and recorded grades, and caught up with lesson plans and stuff like that. What did the guy say? I couldn't tell you. You know, I really can't. And unfortunately, there was a quiz at the end that I completely I didn't know there was going to be because there usually isn't. But what I'm saying is this: you can tell if somebody is rejecting it, then they're rejecting it. I mean, move on. And I'm not saying move on forever. I'm saying move on for now. You know. So you got. I mean, in using his words here, you've got a pearl. You want to give it away. Who you gonna give it to? Somebody appreciate it. Somebody use it. Somebody needs it. Or somebody wants it. Whatever. And you can tell, you know, who that is. In the same way, when you're trying, and I'm not trying to say teach the gospel. You don't always know. I can promise you this, though. I can make some determinations where I stand on Sunday. You know, as to what, and, you know, I can tell they didn't know anything. And in fact, our preacher back in Arkansas preached a meeting over there in Florida, and he said there are people that didn't enjoy what we did in Sunday school with a clip because they ain't here now. You know? So you can tell when people are receptive, are ready, or something, and if they're not, move on for now. And I'm not talking about preaching, I'm talking about sharing your faith. And even though he doesn't say it here, I would recommend you use this very advice for anything else. I mean, have you ever heard of Project Zero? Dr. Howard Gardner of Harvard University. Very interesting stuff if you like this kind of stuff. He based his theories, and which he says he's proven, I think he has, on a lady who was an educator in fascist Italy during the war, whose name was Maria Montessori. She was the founder of the Montessori school system. He says this, and he's right, that everybody in the world is highly intelligent. Everyone is. Not potential, everyone is. But he said the problem is we only determine intelligence on the basis of one or two things. When the thing is there are, and I don't know how many there are now, but there were 8 when I studied it. There are 8 different ways that people are smart. 2 of them are logical mathematic and verbal linguistic. That's the only 2 we look at in schools. He says that's the problem. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. I've had a child that, and here's my one story, and I won't say his name because he's still around. He's making a bunch of money now because he's smart. But now he took him 5 years to get out of school. Yeah, high school. Because I was the remedial teacher then, and every semester he was in school, he had to take my class so that I could help him get through all of his other 3, including PE. You know, he and I talked, he got down on himself one day, and he said, I'm just dumb. I said, no, you're not. I said, well, let's face it, math and reading, that ain't you. He said, you're right. So that's not the only way. So you're very, very smart. The kid couldn't read much. He could get by because I forced him to, and he did it. He did the work to get by. He could read on a functional level. That was it. And he could write on a functional level. If you want to find out what he did and how smart he was, you didn't look at what he wrote or how well he read. As far as math was concerned, he still used his fingers. in high school. I mean, for everything. Algebra, maybe about half of it. Geometry, not even a little. He did a little bit better understanding the concepts of geometry, but couldn't do the mathematics stuff of it. All right, I said all to say this. I had bus duty one morning, and he would come where I was. He'd get to school early. We drove, and that sidewalk in front of the libraries, I had to walk back and forth, controlling children's behavior. That's where they waited before school started when the bus went on. And we'd go back and forth and then run around and play out there. He was standing beside me, and you know how the school is. This way you can see a good ways, but if you're facing the front that way, there's trees and stuff, and you can't see. We heard a car. He told me exactly whose car that was, what color it was, what it was. It was coming around the corner because he knew the car, and he knew it from the sound. I can't do that. I can't do it. They all sound exactly alike to me. It could be a car, it could be a truck, it could be a go-kart, it could be a motorcycle, it could be a plane coming through there. I don't know. It's a motor. I could pretty well take out a motor, but shoot, we'll have an explosion out here, and I can't tell whether it's Fort Stewart or Thunder sometimes. What I'm saying is this, and in our preaching of the gospel, I believe it is in my estimation, we depend on far too few ways to reach people. If there's any good thing that's come out of this coronavirus pandemic, it's this. People have learned to do other things, to work, to do business, to buy, to sell in other ways than going to brick and mortar buildings and driving to get there. People have been, and there are people, and we saw that this last week, who are very, very smart in using this, and these are people who would have been considered stupid a year ago. But yet, they single-handedly make thousands of dollars through Reddit and a little known app that you can buy and sell stock from called Robinhood. And that's exactly what it did. They inflated the price. Folks, GameStop is about ready to close because those games are downloadable and you can buy them cheaper that way. And going and buying, the thing is, you take these video games, you take them to GameStop, you sell them, that they're going to clean up and resell, and you buy, they give you credit to buy other things. But now there is a thing like Netflix where you can do that. You can get 3 games at one time, and then get done with it, put an envelope, get back, and get it the next one in your queue, just like you did with Netflix, the movies. GameStop's about to go out of business, and all of a sudden, GameStop is one of the most valuable corporations in the world because they inflated the price. Now it's over with now. They did it with GameStop, Blockbuster. Blockbuster has one store in the United States. One. It's in Washington State. It's way off in the middle of somewhere. Home. People can't get internet, so they still have a Blockbuster. They have one store left. What's going to be next? Are they going to start inflating Toys R Us? They've just closed their last few stores they have, and they're going to get. But the thing is, these people, when you talk about going to a trading floor and going to Charles Schwab or somebody like that and deciding how to do research and invest, but you give them Reddit, you give them Robinhood, and they did all kinds of stuff. It costs one of these huge investment firms billions of dollars they had to borrow to make their margin call because they sold short. And then the GameStop stock went way up and they lost a pile of money. So the thing is, what I'm saying is this. Everybody is smart. Everyone in the world is smart. I can read and take notes, and I can just about figure out what I need to figure out. I found, or I can use the internet. But now, you put me in a garden, I can't grow a thing. I've tried, I've done it, I've looked into it, I've researched it, but there are people who can take a seed and throw it over their shoulder and then harvest tomatoes from it. Okay? I can't do that. I've tried growing vegetables in the ground. The only thing that I can do is I can take things that are easy, like a philodendron. I had one of those that was just about to cover the house, you know. You can't hardly kill them. A willow tree, I can make them grow. You can't hardly kill them either. But for the most part, I did grow a few hot peppers because I bought a little flat thing of peppers, put it in. But I mean, I kept it watered because it was right by where I watered the dogs. And so, and I got some peppers out of it, but it's gone now, it's frozen. But not many, not as many as other people could have done that. The thing I'm saying is everybody is smart and we try to preach the gospel in one way. I mean, Bible correspondence courses, they're great for people that are able to do that. Jewel Miller film strips that I brought up Sunday morning, they're fantastic if that's the way you learn. Or that's the way but there are other ways that we need to use. And we don't. Now, he also says, he goes on to say, the message is simple. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be opened for you. For everyone who asks receives, and the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks it will be opened. That is so simple. Think about it for just a minute. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. Sometimes you don't get what you don't ask. And the next one. Sometimes you never find something because you never, ever look for it. Donna's a whiz at this. If we lose something, she'll find it. Oh, she didn't find this one last thing. I'll figure that out. And a lot of times, and this is the one that's just absolutely, and I'm sure these people, when he said the last one, they said, well, duh, of course. Why have I been doing this? How many times are you going to get into somewhere that's locked if you don't knock? It's going to sit outside in the heat, all right, now the cold. You know, if you don't get out of your car and knock. What do you do if you pull up somebody's house and they'll just immediately come out because they see you're there? You get out and go and knock, you know? And it says, and it says it's silly to think and it's silly to be afraid to ask or to seek or to knock. Why? Because God is your Father. Or what person is there among you who, when his son asks for a loaf of bread, will give him a stone? Or if he asks for a fish, you will not give him a snake, will you? Again, with the jokes. Look at what he's saying. Look. So let's look at look at 11. You people are imperfect humans. That's what he means with despite being evil. If you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father who is in heaven give good things to those who ask him? And yet, this is what is taught in most religions today, that God will give you a rock if you ask for a stone, and God will give you a snake if you ask for a fish. They're actually teaching that. I mean, what kind of monster if this kid came up to him and asked him for a loaf of bread, would he give him a rock, a stone? Or what kind of cruel, insensitive, heartless individual? If a child asks you for a fish, and the word here, I think that he's using it, you know, you're going to give him a poisonous, or no, it's not called poisonous, venomous snake instead of a fish. You know, what kind of person would you be? Well, you know this, and you are imperfect and human. How much more does a perfect Father in heaven know how to give good things to his children? The reason you don't get them is because you don't ask. You don't look for them. You don't know. And yet, And I think that the world has, and the Christian world has missed this completely. Because people expect to get their Bible knowledge by osmosis. You know what that is? You know what diffusion is? It's a scientific term. What you do is you take something of great concentration and it will disperse itself to lower concentration. It's like if you have a glass of water and you put one drop of food coloring in it, at first you're going to see one drop of food coloring, but if you leave it alone for a while, don't shake it up or stir it up or anything, the whole thing will be purple. Okay? Well, in the same way, you know, I know kids in college that tried this. I have a test tomorrow. I'm going to take the book and I'm going to sleep on it. You know, all that knowledge is going to get in the book. You know, if it worked, we'd all be, we'd all be summa cum laude graduates. Well, in the same way, we walk into church buildings and sit in a pew for an hour and sit there and look forward and expect it all to get in it. You know, expect, well, we're perfect now. It all just flowed right in us. And if you'll notice, there's a lot of church doctrines and a lot of denominations that actually depend on that. That if you sit in a church, somehow God will sneak it all into you, you know, with the gift of the Holy Spirit or whatever, you know what I'm saying? You know, and it goes. And it doesn't work that way. We don't ask, we don't seek, and we don't knock. You got to do all three. You got to ask and you got to knock, but you got to seek it. You got to look for it, where it can be found. Well, in everything, therefore, and to put all this into practice, do something. Well, these people are kind of like us. They're not really used to this. They're used to working for a living, making money, making food, you know, for their family. He said, okay, this is what you do. Treat people the same way you want them to treat you. So this is the law and the prophets. If you think about that, that just takes the whole book of Deuteronomy and Leviticus and reduces it to a single sentence. You know, how do you treat other people? Just like you would want them to treat you. You do this. And the really masters of us that actually do this is, instead of waiting for an opportunity to do this, is we seek out opportunities. We sit at home and we turn off the TV for a minute and we think, what would somebody else want me to do? You know what I'm saying? What would they, in other words, what would I want them to do? So that's what I need to do. What is something I can do for someone else? And this is the law and the prophets. How do I treat other people? Well, you treat them the way that you would want them to treat you. If people say, well, you know, you look at it and you do good things for others just to get something in return, that's not it. But you will get a lot in return because your example will show other people the way to act and they'll start doing what you do. Now, we'll 13 and 14, and then we probably won't finish, but we'll quit partway through it. Enter through the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is broad that leads to destruction. And there are many who enter through it. For the gate is narrow, and the way is constricted that leads to life, and there are few who find it. Oh, we beat people up with this all the time. I'm not sure we should beat people up with this. But if you see a whole lot of people going in, so the same gate, be careful. Has anybody been, Miss Vicki, have you taken the kids to Disney World lately?
No.
The last time I went was several years ago. Well, a couple years ago with Taylor. You know they got an app for your phone? If you buy a ticket, you punch in a code, and you download the app. Do you know what it does? It gives you so many fast passes. Are you familiar with this concept? You've been to Disney. It's an organized bore. Because you'll ride a ride for what? 10 minutes? 15? How long will it take to get to it?
2-3 hours.
Yeah, maybe. In
If
fact,
you're
they just say
lucky.
estimated wait time from this point. Well, I found this when I went to Animal Kingdom several years ago. I wanted to go see it, and I did. But the things I wanted to see, I couldn't see anything else because there was a huge wait. So what they had was a fast pass in with no cell phones. We didn't have them then, but they had cell phones, but they weren't smartphones that you could download apps on. You could go to the fast pass and you could push the button and you could get a time with their computers. And then you came back at that time and you went right in. Okay? So I did that. The things I almost see the lion thing where you went out and you drove in that thing and it, you know, and you saw all the Serengeti thing.
Safari.
With Safari, what it's called. And I want to see something else. I can't remember what it was. But I got to see both of them and I have to wait in line. But I did something else until it was time and I gave my ticket, sure enough. Now, the people that were waiting, normally, guess what size the gate was? It's huge. Everybody went in that way. But the good gate where you have to wait, no time. You know, there's one person in a costume taking a ticket, looking at him and saying, "Hey, go ahead, sir." You know, he went in, and one of them I got there about 5 minutes early. I had to wait 5 minutes.
It is amazing.
I had to wait 5 minutes, and then you saw all those poor people that had been in line the whole time because they, you know, they were getting into one car and you were getting into the other, and your line was like four people behind you, and their line was like 3 million behind them, and they've been waiting for that whole line. You can do it with your app now. You can choose where you go, and you click it on the map, and they'll put you, okay, you're supposed to be here, here, here. You can send you a reminder 5 minutes before you go to, you know, because you got an appointment to ride this ride this time. We rode so many that day. You know, we went to the Magic Kingdom, which I've been through so many times, but we rode so many. That's what this kind of reminds me of. You know, the gate, and when you get to the ride, what kind of mood are you in? You know, usually I don't even care anymore. I have no place to stay. You know? But this is the fun way, is to go through the narrow gate. You know? And look at what he says at the end of verse 14. And there are few who find it. Now you marry that, or you put that to what we just talked about. Seek and you'll find. Here's another small story. I was teaching middle school. Johnny Miller and I took the kids on a field trip. He's still around. He drives for the senior citizen center. Johnny and I coached basketball together, and then he and I took some kids. They asked us to take. We both had CDL, so one of us drove there, one of us drove back. But he and I went to Savannah State so that our kids see college. Well, the kids got a lunch pass, a meal ticket, and they could eat in the Savannah State cafeteria. Well, have you seen a public school cafeteria? Get in this line to get your food, or get in this line to get your food. You know? Well, Southern, Armstrong, I used to have an Armstrong, and Savannah State, you go into the lunch hall, and there are like 9 lines, depending on what you want. You know, and you can go into several of them, and there's no waiting because there's so many of them. You know what our kids did? They went right inside, and they all got in the first line and just sat. Just like that. Johnny and I looked at each other and said, "We got to tell them."
So, it don't work that way.
Said, "Guys, what do you want? What do they have? They don't get a choice, you know, at school. What do you want? So they got this, and this." And we finally figured out we need to get about 10 or 15 of them together and pull them out of line. They don't want to get out of line because they want to miss their place. They come here. What do you want? They have this, and this. He said, "Well, I want pizza." I said, "That's the line there. Wait a minute." "Oh, okay. Well, I want Mexican." That's the line there. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? The gates got smaller, but they got better. You know, it's not so much. Here's this big gate, okay, that everybody wants to go through, but you can't. You gotta go to this small, restrictive gate. That's not it. The small gates are always better. Okay, the small gates are always better. And this big gate that everybody's going through, because everybody's following a herd mentality, it's not gonna get you anywhere. But the little gate that has a purpose, that has a specific purpose, that's the gate you want.
Like the airport.
There you go.
You gotta know where you wanna
And
go.
they call it a gate. I don't know why, because there's nothing a gate about it, but they call it a gate. Even in Savannah,
Yeah.
okay, you've never been to another airport, you think it's big, it ain't.
Savannah's interesting.
Yeah.
It's little, it's cute, it's sweet.
And then they got a train station behind it.
But if you want to get something to eat, you gotta get it pretty close to security, almost. They need to have that stuff in the. Savannah is a few gates, but now if you just go in and go to the wide one, I'm gonna go in and just stand there, you'll wind up in, I don't know, New Jersey or somewhere, But in Savannah you'd only wind up in Atlanta. Every airline flew to Atlanta and that was it. Now it's everywhere. All these airlines have hubs all over the place. You get actually,
Everywhere.
yeah, even at one stop, you can't get to good places, but you can go to hubs anyway, all the airlines.
But you gotta know where you wanna go.
Yeah,
And even to leave, you gotta get in the right lane accordingly.
and I'm gonna sort of say this, you gotta be kind of dumb, because the person that looks at your boarding pass, because you got to show a boarding pass where you go through security to see if you have any bombs or something. They tell you, okay, your gate is gate 49, it's right there. Okay, and then somebody's always there to say, and then when you give them your boarding pass, there's two people usually at the gate checking your pass and say, this is you, yes, you're right, and then they scan it. Even if you print one, it has a barcode on it. They scan it, and it tells them who you are, where you're sitting, and that you're supposed to be on that plane. And if it beeps at you, you're at the wrong place. And, you're in the wrong place.
It needs to be.
The only thing I'm kind of curious about is how you fly on standby. There's a lot of people that do that. But
Part of it.
they just wander around the airport till they find a flight left.
No.
Well, you want to go to a certain place, but there's no ticket, so you have to wait until there is a.
They will be. Yeah, but you can.
So somebody cancels or
You
something.
can actually get on a plane that way because they don't sell them all a lot of times, or they sell too many a year. Anyhow, that's my beginning of wide and narrow gate. All right, what's your invitation song?
Tell me what we just read. I lost my marker.
7. Matthew 7, 13, 14. Sermon on the Mount. What did you say it was?
340.
348. All right, 348. Sing one verse of the song. If anybody wants to make a change, can come as it goes, and that is edible.
Jesus was tenderly calling me home, calling today. Why from the sunshine of love wilt thou roam, farther and farther away? Calling today, calling today. Jesus is tenderly calling today, is tenderly calling today.
So pray. Father God, Father of all, we thank you for your word. Thank you for the time that we can spend it. We ask, Heavenly Father, your blessings on those who are sick. We ask you to come in for their much wanted help. Again, care for each and every one of us and be with us all. This is my son, we pray. Amen. The only announcement I know we have is we have a meeting this coming Sunday. If I type up the minutes from the last one, which I probably will, I'm sitting on my computer. So, let's see, Donna is home. She's not feeling good. She talked to her doctor some Fremont today. She's doing some things. Things are not all bad. So they are bad, that they could get better. People are emailing me and they say we're praying, so that's what we got. So, and that is,
Without the operation, that's what they're
they're
talking
giving up
about.
on that, yeah. The TIPS procedure, it's too dangerous, and I don't think it's going to bring about the desired results
Right.
that she needs anyway. We don't really know what's fixing to happen, with that, with hospitalization, because she's still got a lot to it, makes it hard for her to move around. And it may actually be a stay with 3 or 4 days here, a day or 2 here, and then for that. Or for anything else that may come up. But she is in contact. She had an appointment with, her primary yesterday. She had an appointment with Dr. Nice, the liver doctor here, this coming week. So, and she's talking to Piedmont, and she may actually be going to, Atlanta for a week here, a little bit longer, to make sure about everything, do more tests and things like that, but she hates being in a hospital. She doesn't like being away from here, but it may be necessary to do so many things. Just, continue to be with us in prayer, which is what we can do. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to work, but we'll see. Let's see. I don't know where Charles is tonight. I know nothing else. Although it was your birthday yesterday. You turned 25 years old. So
What was yesterday?
your birthday.
Wasn't it Monday?
I thought it was Tuesday, but no, that was Braden's. Yours was Monday. So that's a birthday in 2 days. Okay.
Thanks.
I was thinking, yeah, it was Braden's. We sang twice, but I can't. Well, you have to understand.
I know, a
My
lot of things
body-
happen on Monday,
But
so
my
we're all
mind is
messed
getting
up.
old too, you know.
Is Braden the older or the younger?
Braden is the oldest one.
Okay.
And Bryson,
That's what Abby thought, but I thought he was the younger.
Braden is the older one, and Bryson is the shorter one. Now Braden has a look. Have you noticed? He can work around it when he goes in.
Mhm.
But my problem is I've been calling him Waylon and Willie for so many years but now they've gotten old enough now where they got together and they chose which one they were.
Oh, so now
Braden-
you have to know.
Braden is Willie and Bryson is Waylon, so,
Great.
which is a lot more fun to call him that one before Waylon Jennings actually died.
Yeah.
But, now y'all heard, Cora Sleep's gonna pass away
Oh,
this week.
No, I didn't.
no, I didn't.
Yeah, she passed away. That was one of the funniest ladies. I remember on Mary Tyler Moore show many years ago, that she was on Malcolm in the Middle and played a totally different character and it was hilarious.
Mhm.
That she passed away this past week. Somebody else that was a big part of my childhood passed away that week. Old Larry King.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
That
died.
was last year.
Yeah,
There's a lot of people, and not related, it was
just,
body.
yeah,
Issue.
randomly, but they all left. And it was early on up there too.
Yeah.
But it was sad.
yeah.
And the thing that, the guy that raised all that money in England, walking around in his yard, he was over 100. And he said he raised millions of pounds for something. I can't remember it. But he believed in it. He died of COVID this past week. But he was knighted by the Queen after he did that. He did a picture of him not being knighted by the Queen. He walked in his garden, which is what they call a yard, But he just walked around it and people would sponsor him as slow as he could be. The people would sponsor him. He walked with his cane all the way around it and sponsor him for every step or every lap around it. And he raised millions of pounds, which is, a pound is worth more than $1. But he passed away, which is sad.
I think we were lucky. We were in a time when comedians were funny,
Yeah. And we were
and
at a time-
everybody could appreciate it.
which I argue with the kids at school about this, but we were in a time when music was music.
Yeah.
It required musical talent and ability and practice to work. And now it requires computer skills.
I was talking to my daughter about that.
I mean, it was said that
How many songs now are not digital?
the older people used to tell me my music was garbage, and I would say, no, it's not. But now, when I tell the kids that, I actually have a reason to say it. And when I tell the kids, they say, you're right. It's just all,
You have a lot of
where,
60, 71.
where it would take 4 or 5 months to write a song. Now it takes 20 minutes. You know, that there's something wrong with that. All right, we never had anybody join us on Zoom except for
All that money they get in return.
well, in my day, they deserved it.
Oh, yeah. They earned it.
Oh, thank you.
I didn't put it in Sunday because I have not paid transfers yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I will put it in Sunday for you.
Okay.
Should I say anything? Well, I said it's half of it.
All right, that's over with.
I hate to bother you, but can I ask you something?
You just did.
Quit.
You would never bother me.
Well, this is what happened on Monday. Tim told